Coach, why don't you start off, just talk about what it means to come back and kind of the Clemson family, and
Right.
even though you're coaching in another school, you still feel a part
Oh,
of it.
yeah, well, one of my former players, Wayne Buckingham, he's been spearheading this event for a couple of years, and when he told me about it a couple of years ago, he said, I want to give back and help to people that need help. And I said, I'll be there. And I think that's what Clemson's about, really and truly. Once you've been in this family, you are in this family, and it's always great to see people come back. I mean, you look out there and you see the people bonding together that were here years and years ago, or were here not long ago, and it gives them a chance to come together. You know, I've been able to see guys that I don't get to see very often because I still am in the business and I do my own thing. But this gives us a chance to do that, but it's for the right reason. And I think that's one thing that we can say about Clemson. Once you're connected to Clemson, you're in that family. And the one thing that family teaches is to give back. And what you're seeing here is giving back. And I can't say enough about Tim Beret, who stays behind the scenes in this, but he jumped on board, and to say this because Wayne told me about it, he jumped on board to try to help put this thing together. And it's just really a great thing.
How cool is it for you to be able to see some of your former players like Dale Davis and Elvin Campbell and the grown men that they've become?
Oh, it's absolutely wonderful. You get to find out what their kids doing, and we're starting to get into grandkids and things of that type. We rehash memories. It's like Derek Forrest, who was on that '90 championship team. He said, when we went to North Carolina Duke, they told you about the jersey. He said they never would call that stuff. He said we shouldn't have lost to them at their place either. And I said, well, we won the whole thing. He said, well, we still shouldn't have lost to them. Stories like that, hearing them give back, feedback, and Jeff Holstein, who played with Horace Grant and on the '87 team. That was a team that finished runner-up. Crazy story on that. We were talking about it last night, but we played Wake Forest the last regular season game, and it locked up second place, and fans came out and they put a ladder up and cut the nets down. And I said, what in the world's going on? He said, we've never finished second here. This is a monumental time. I've never been on a team where the fans cut the net down for being runner-up. But that was those stories right there. Those are the things you can tell. And so it's just absolutely wonderful. Fun for me.
What's it like to come back and see the facilities that the basketball program has in the state of Clemson basketball right now?
Well, it's great. What amazes me, the facilities have always been there at Clemson, but I can't believe the way that all the housing and stuff that's going on, how this place is just growing. I drove out here and got past the university, across the bridge, came out, and there's a big shopping center over here, there's housing over here. It's really changing. It's growing in a positive direction. It's beautiful.
The same way basketball has evolved a lot over even the last few years. How have you had to adapt as a coach with the transfer portal and everything that's going on in the sport right now?
Well, you don't have a choice. The transfer portal is the biggest thing right now. I mean, there's no doubt about it. But, this is not the first time the game has changed. When I was coaching, it was throw it to the big man. It was just a 2-point game. Then they went to the 3-point shot, and they went to the shot clock. And, this is not the first time that it's changed, but it is what it is. Do I like the rule? I'm not in favor of it, but you have to adapt. You have to live with it. There's got to be a reason behind it. What I think it takes away is perhaps the discipline. If somebody can lace their shoes up and say, I'm out of here. Don't even have to tell the coach, walk into compliance, put the name on the board. And they had to been in basketball, they had to been close to 1,000 kids on the board. Now I feel like I'm a general manager. Kevin O'Connor is a good friend of mine, and he's the former general manager of the Utah Jazz, still a consultant. We were having dinner a couple of weeks ago, and I said, I feel like you guys. I feel like now I'm just a general manager. What's on the board? I lost my best player this year, player of the year in our league. he's out, going to Michigan. Just trade, free. I feel like I'm in the free agency market. I'm gonna lose some guys, get guys, but I'm one of those guys that never cries over spilt milk. It is what it is. I don't make the rules. Got to go with them. I'm not in favor of it. I think there got to be adjustment and changes, but it's the way it is. So you live with it, and it's not the first time the game's changed. So I've had to adapt many times. I say that because I've been doing it for about 50 years. I didn't say many. I said many.
Does the evolving nature of basketball keep you on your toes?
Love it. Young people, just young people, the competitiveness of it. I like seeing it. Kind of sad that Krzyzewski's leaving because, Boeheim, myself, but Ray knows this better than I do. Boeheim, myself, Krzyzewski, there's a group of us in that range, and he's going to be pulling out. So
Roy Williams just retired.
Roy Williams, he was a little younger, but he was in his 70s. He was, 70, something like that. But anyway, it does keep you young,
I know you had some big-time battles with Mike Krzyzewski when
I
you were
did.
at Clemson. What was your relationship like with him?
Wonderful. As a matter of fact, I will say this. We beat Duke for the regular season championship to wrap it up in 1990. And he and his wife, Mickey, when the game was over, he came in, he congratulated, Mickey came in and he said, just enjoy this moment. And we did. We stay in touch. I've talked to him a couple of times since his retirement. And a group of us coaches, we're going to try to find a time when we can go. I got to check my schedule, but we want to get some of the former guys that have been there and go and honor his run because in the end, it's about what he's done for the game of basketball. He's done a lot for the game of basketball. And an icon is fixing to leave, and he needs to be honored. And I hope that Clemson will, and I know that they will totally honor him when he comes here because, he's given to the game. And just happy that he's happy. But I don't think that's anybody done. He's in that with John Wooden and Dean Smith and those guys. I mean, he's the winningest coach ever. So.
You mentioned some of the guys in your age range that are starting to retire. What still drives you at this point?
Competitiveness, as long as my health's good. Young people, making a difference in people's lives. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, that's the purpose that I have. I like to come out here, play golf. I like to fish. I like to do things, but I've got to have a purpose. For me personally, and that's what drives me, making a difference in young people's lives.
Coach, I hate to open an old wound, but that shot by Tate George.
Oh my God.
I had to ask you about, a couple of years later when Christian Laettner almost made the exact same play for Duke, the famous shot against Kentucky, and how that kind of, reminded you of that play and how strange it is that the Clemson UConn has kind of been lost in the shuffle.
Well, over the years, first of all, I'm kind of glad it got lost in the shuffle because from 91 to for about 15 years, that's how the NCAA tournament started. They would show that shot, and finally some other shots came into play, and finally shuffled that back. But I mean, I got tired of looking at it. I mean, every year I had to look at it. I've always said championships, no matter what you get, you got to be very talented and you got to be lucky too. And it was an unfortunate situation. I think that it was a team that could have gone to the Final Four. That was one of those things that kept us out of it. And I couldn't watch it. It took me 10 years to watch it. I never watched that. I couldn't watch the replay. But 10 years later, and I'm at Auburn, and it was ironic that it was an ESPN Classic, and my daughter called me and said, the game is on. Why don't you watch it? Well, we had just won an SEC championship. at Auburn that year, and it had a good year. So I looked at it and I watched it, and it still hurt, but it helped me get through it. It took me 10 years to watch it. That's the toughest loss in basketball that Clemson's ever had. I mean, no question about that. It's the toughest loss I've ever had.
People forget we were down 19 points in that game. It
Yeah.
was an unbelievable
Yeah,
comeback.
yeah. It's a great comeback.
We hear players talk about learning from situations like that. You learn from losing. What did you learn from that moment?
Well, I don't know what I learned. What I had to, what you have to do. My immediate thought was the players. I mean, I said, okay, it has happened. You got to handle those guys right there when they go to the dressing room. This is going to be, it's going to be a sad locker room. I mean, everybody knows we shouldn't have lost that game, and I don't think it was something that I knew I had to deal with. I think through the years I've learned that, okay, sometimes things are going to go for you, sometimes they go against you. You have to learn to deal with the situation at hand. If it's going good, don't get too brash, don't get too cocky. If it's going against you, learn to deal with it and move on. Show a little class. Because your players, they're studying, you know, the brain's not fully developed until you're 25 years of age, and that's what I tell my players every year. You know, the brain's not fully developed for 25. I'm gonna tell you what you need to do. I'm gonna tell you the right and tell you wrong. I'm gonna tell you the truth. Now, when you get 25 years old, you're on your own. You're on your own. I said, that's why you don't like what your mama tells you, your aunt tells you, your grandmama, your daddy, you know, but I'm gonna tell you the things that you need to do, because you're gonna make mistakes. Because I made mistakes, still make them. But again, according to science, the brain's not fully developed until you're 25, and I tell my children the same thing. Excuse me.
All set?